Hello, hello. So we are wrapping up our week and our discussion on the number zero. And oh yeah, we went on quite a journey. We talked about zero's discovery as an arithmetic symbol. We went on to demonstrations of how powerful it was as a mathematical concept, getting banned and made illegal at one point, and also how it shaped basically the advent of modern capitalism as we see it today. And I wanted to wrap up the discussion, Friday videos, I'd like to kind of bring it back more to the spiritual side of it. And I thought that this would be a perfect day to talk about yoga. Something we're all, at least, in here in America, something we're all very familiar with. But it's something with like a surprisingly simple definition that I don't think a lot of people understand. Um, some people think it's about like fitness or, flexibility and bendiness, but um, it's not really, doesn't really exist in that space in terms of what its intentions were. And I think with a lot of Eastern stuff, Eastern philosophy, we get kind of caught up in like this over mystification of things. Like, before I had understood what the Analects of Confucius were, I just assumed it was like some, space cadet, like wisdom based text, but it was actually a very practical kind of handbook on the nature of statecraft and how to, groom and create good leaders. And yoga actually has a similar a handbook, a specific book, and this isn't some kind of spiritual text. It's not, stories and really out there kind of concept. It's a very kind of practical scientific handbook. And this book is known as the Sutras of Patanjali, and it's referred to as the yogic science. And there's a lot to get into it, but essentially it just has two golden rules. So a sutra, similar to like an Analects of Confucius, it's structured kind of in a way that like a spiritual text was like a Bible verse, like there'll be like 1.1, and then as the chapters, so it'll be kind of like smaller snippets of language. Especially the Sutras of Patanjali are written in Sanskrit, which is a language where you can pack a lot of dense information and double meanings in a very kind of like small, efficient amount of text. Uh, as I was saying, yoga really only has two rules. The first is that it must be practiced, it cannot be intellectualized and understood. And the second is that, by definition, yoga is the removal of the mental modifications of the mind stuff, which the Sanskrit kind of mini translation of that is a Srita Chitta Vritti. So the goal of yoga is to remove modifications of the mind stuff. And what does that really mean? I think is a big topic of discussion. But the manual goes on to say that if you can do this, if you can remove the mental modifications of the mind stuff, then the rest of the manual serves no purpose. Everything else is kind of a detailed view of what that means, what all the mind stuffs are, how you can remove the modifications, and etc. Um, a simple, bordering on silly way I like to think about it is there's this song by the 2000s group, the Gorillaz, the song Clint Eastwood, with a rap verse in it. And the rapper says, "Y'all can't see me now 'cause you don't see with your eyes. You perceive with your mind." And that just doesn't just sound awesome to say. It actually kind of gets to the practical advice of yoga. So, how do you, the modifications, right? What, am I using my perceptory senses to become aware of something? Or am I letting my mind influence what I see? And the goal of yoga is to prevent that, right? So if every time, you look at a picture of your cousin and you get angry, right? You're not just looking at a picture of your cousin, right? Some mental modification is occurring and coming in the way of letting you simply use your eyes to see the image. Um, and that really does kind of come back to our spiritual discussions on zero. So, in a lot of ways, zero as a mental state, as the striving towards zero, is one way you could define the yoga practice. So, the way you go about trying to work and achieve that is going to involve the breath. So, a friend of mine this past weekend asked the question, what is the connection between the human body and the human soul? And it seems like no one really has a great answer on that. But I think the kind of clear answer is the breath. And it's very easy to see that if you can take control over your breath, you can control the way that you feel, your emotional state. Um, and kind of once again, bringing it back around, the emotional state that the yogic text, the yogic scriptures would say is worth achieving is one of no modifications. So the mind in a state of blankness, emptiness, zero modifications of your mind. And that is kind of, I think, one of the most powerful applications of the mathematical concept. As we've discussed earlier in the week, the arithmetic concept of zero does kind of stem, or not kind of, it is known to have stemmed from this pursuit and this ideal. So I think it's really interesting when it comes to our spiritual practice. A lot of people are spiritual practitioners of yoga or even in other forms of spiritual practice throughout the world. Our goal is really to feel better, right? Find our peace of mind, find our strength, all of that. And a lot of these spiritual practices, these ideals, our goals, kind of take us back to this idea of removing our mind's influence on our perception of the world. And in a lot of ways, spiritual practitioners are working towards achieving, in some state, in some way, this concept of zero. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for for Friday night. Next week I'm going to not be making videos. I'm going to be traveling a little bit, visiting some family. But I hope you've enjoyed this discussion, and we'll be back in a couple weeks. Back on it, making some more videos soon. So I hope you'll have a great weekend. Bye.